Sean Combs is a bitch.
Yeah.
Right? And I think the men who are around him and knew he was that, they bitches too.
I could live this
I
life
do have two little girls, and we sort of got into the conversation when he was brought up by Floyd Mayweather, and some of the things he was saying is like, no, if he did those things, he's a monster. If he did those things, he should rot in jail. And it's not to say that he should be in a place to where he could never be forgiven. That's between him and God. That's between him and Cassie. But we can look at that as men and say that some things you don't get to come back from. And the video is so telling, right? Because she's escaping. Right? Like she's not, it's not one of those things where you're in a situation where you could tell somebody, hey, I'm leaving you, or hey, I don't want to be here, and you can walk out and not fear for your life. Right? Like you watch TV shows where people are running from war and running from things that people are trying to kill them, trying to hurt. That's what that woman was doing. Right? And then he pulls her down and he's stumping her. Bro, I'm a grown man who is perfectly fine defending himself. But even if I'm fighting somebody right now that I dislike, I'm not gonna fucking stump you on the ground. And it brings into mind like all the other whole shit he's ever done publicly. All the ways that he's used his power, all the ways that he's disrespected people and treated people, and you let him do that because of his power. And now you know that this woman has been living with this for years. And those bruises heal, right? But emotionally, mentally, the trauma that she's experienced, and then to come out after all these years and finally have the courage to say something about it, to do something about it, to in some way try to recoup some of your dignity, in some way try to recoup what he took from you. Now you got to hear everybody in the world doubt that you ever went through those things. Yeah. And when you look at some of the affidavits and read some of the things of the civil cases, you can look at those things and say, you know what? He's just in some way perverted. Maybe those things aren't things that broach illegalities. Maybe some of those things aren't things that are immorally wrong. But to beat that woman like that, someone who's clearly scared of you, someone who's clearly in fear, someone who's clearly afraid, and you think that make you a fucking man? And so for me, there is no coming back from it. For me, there is no, it's ever going to be okay. For me, all our prayers, all our thoughts should be with that woman. All our thoughts should be with her husband, who in some way is going to have to try to help that woman heal from what the fuck that man did. And I think it's a lesson to all of us that we definitely want people to be innocent until proven guilty. But we have to be fair in the way that we assess it and understand that two people are going through it until we know. And more than anything, a lot of times something has happened to these women. They're going through something, and we have to be fair to them to wait and to at least know that this or that happened before we start calling them liars, before we start defending people just because we have the same melanin in our skin. I will never in any way defend him, vouch for him, give him any sort of grace when it comes to this. He owes that woman, all women, his children, Kim Porter, the past mother of his child, because we've heard shit about this man forever. But to see it like that, to see him stump that girl out and then want to be in front of people acting like he loved her, acting like he cared about her, when she's walking around in fear, bro, it's one of the more fucked up things I'd ever seen. And he is a bitch to me forever. Period, point blank. The first thing, and we need to be honest, like Sean Combs is a bitch.
Yeah.
Right? And I think the men who are around him and knew he was that, they bitches too.
I could live this life.
I do have two little girls, and we sort of got into the conversation when he was brought up by Floyd Mayweather, and some of the things he was saying is like, no, if he did those things, he's a monster. If he did those things, he should rot in jail.